Hello everyone. Now this may very well make me unpopular, but I wanted to make a video about this thing that's been going around on Facebook. I've seen a couple of people who work for the NHS share it, and I wanted to sort of give you my opinion and also just invite your opinion really. Basically it's people about the NHS complaining effectively that they're no longer getting the recognition that they feel they deserve, and certainly the recognition that they were getting maybe this time last year when people were probably still on their doorsteps slapping their hands together, banging pots and pans, and generally just being a bit of a nuisance really. So I'll read it verbatim, I'll give you my opinion as we go along, and then I'll open the floor to you guys and let me know what you guys think. I put it up on the screen so you can read it, but I'll read it as well. NHS and other essential workers are still working hard to fight COVID. I believe that was kind of the job of the vaccine, but fair enough. There are probably still people on the front line having to deal with sick people in their wards, putting ourselves and loved ones at risk. Again, double, treble jabbed. First to get the jabs, got access to proper PPE equipment now. So of course you're going to be at risk of getting ill in a hospital. I guess that's kind of part of the nature of the beast, really. Part of the occupational hazard, shall we say. We're exhausted and demoralised. Yes, I work in the private sector, I know how that feels. Many battling long COVID and or PTSD. Now, look, I'm sure there are people, particularly emergency surgeons, people who work in the emergency departments who have to deal with accidents and some really horrific things that maybe do suffer from an element of PTSD. However, I think for your average NHS worker, whether they're frontline or admin or whatever, PTSD is something that we really shouldn't be taking lightly, or sort of maybe having a few bad recollections or whatever. But anyway, it might be just being used here in order to sort of emphasise and exaggerate the stress and whatever that they're under. But there you go. The least you can do is continue to wear a darn mask. Well, I'm not going to go back over the mask mandate, but if I go to hospital or I go to the doctors or whatever, then I do wear a mask because, well, it's logical, isn't it? If you're in a place that's basically full of sick people, then wearing a mask might be a fairly logical step. In support of all my colleagues, the respect is gone. Not for the majority of people. I think most people respect. Most people respect anyone who's doing a decent job, and whether that's be a doctor, a nurse, a porter, or someone serving you at McDonald's, or someone, who's serving you over the bar of your local, or whatever, car park attendant. It doesn't really matter. If someone's doing a decent job, or they're just a decent person, then they get enough respect from me. There will, of course, always be arseholes who don't respect anyone and just go around with an entitled and selfish attitude and just are rude to people, but they're people who are generally best avoided in life, aren't they? The appreciation is gone. I refer to my previous comment. I've been in hospital a couple of times over the last few years, and I really appreciate those who go above and beyond. A couple of doctors and a couple of nurses that I've dealt with have been brilliant, really reassuring, really worked to sort of put my mind at rest about the operations I've had and stuff. And I really appreciate them going that extra mile and really caring about the job. And I think that's the thing. These are the people who are doing this as a vocation. These are the people that care about the people they're working with, because that's the reason they do the job, is to care for people. The thank you for working through this has been replaced by this is ridiculous. Now, I think those two can be disassociated. I'm no longer thanking people for working through this because a lot of people don't have jobs, and that is your job. That is and I'm going to come back to this point time and time again, that is your elected form of employment. If you've chosen to be a doctor, a nurse, a porter, or whatever in a hospital or a GP's or whatever, then that's your job. That's the career, job, role, whatever position you've chosen for yourself. You have chosen that. You don't get conscripted to be in the NHS. You make a decision for it. And I'm not at any point in this going to be suggesting that this is an easy job, but it's your job that you've selected. And yes, a lot of it is ridiculous now. But I think that's disassociated. I think people might generally just be having a moan about the ridiculousness of the ongoing COVID restrictions, regulations, ongoing COVID situation that we're being put through. People do find it ridiculous, but I don't think it's necessarily targeted towards these NHS workers. The threats of calling senior managers and being shouted down the phone by understandably frustrated relatives are an all-time high. Well, yes, of course, being threatening, abusive, or just generally a bit of a Karen, a bit of a pain in the arse on the phone to these people, that's not beneficial. That shouldn't be encouraged. That shouldn't be acceptable at any time, really. Obviously people are frustrated. The annoyed eye rolls and huffy sighs when you tell them it shouldn't be much longer. We're doing the best we can. Now, there's a sort of couple of points here. I don't think that you should be getting sort of aggravated with frontline staff because the queues at A&E and the queues everywhere are, long, and waiting times are, take forever and everything else. But it is reasonable to complain or be frustrated by excessive waiting times, particularly when we as taxpayers pay for the NHS. We're the ones that are, funding this, and the poor management, the bloated nature of the service, the organisation, is something that we are very entitled to be frustrated with. Of course, there are other factors, people massively abusing the NHS, overusing A&E for things that they really shouldn't be, and to some extent, I blame those, but also then I blame the perpetuation of fear, where everyone's now in dire fear for their health, because we're told we should be in sort of dire fear for our health, and are probably going to A&E with what we would normally have considered in times gone by a bit of a cold or a seasonal sniffle. Right, where are we? Really starting to chip away at our morale. The free coffee and meals are a thing of the past. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that Starbucks are no longer bringing you free coffee and you're not getting your discounted Just Eats. You can't really complain about that. That was a perk. And you know what? That wasn't just a perk. That was a marketing exercise on behalf of the people doing it. Let's be honest here. I mean, my wife works for the NHS and she got free takeaways, she got free coffee, she got vouchers and discounts everywhere, and whilst, I must admit, we took advantage of it. We had a few free takeaways out of Just Eat and Deliveroo and all the rest of it. But that's not because they were doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, were they? They were doing it because it was a great opportunity to say, look, we're giving back to the NHS. We're giving away 60 million quid's worth of free food and drinks or whatever to NHS staff. And it was a great bit of PR exercise on their part. So they probably milk that for all it's worth now. And with people getting increasingly frustrated with factors such as being unable to get a GP's appointment or something like that, then the positive PR that can be gained from giving back to healthcare staff has been somewhat diminished, and they probably won't bother throwing millions and millions of pounds at it anymore. The hotel lights in the shape of hearts aren't on anymore. Oh, diddums, right? What do you want? Like the bat logo projected, but like a picture of your face projected above the hospital to show what a hero you are. The hotel lights in the shape of hearts aren't on anymore. And what the hell are you on about? Just get on and do your f***ing job. Sorry, anyway, I've got ahead of myself. The neighbours that waved us off and told us to be safe, or stay safe, have gone back inside. Well, it's cold in the mornings, isn't it now? And I would find that slightly off-putting. Can you imagine if someone, one of your neighbours came out and waved to you as you left for work? I mean, I don't work for the NHS, but my wife does, and if someone came out of their house down the road and sort of waved at her as she went off to work, unless it was some kindly old soul who might be a few pence short of a shilling or whatever, but yeah, I wouldn't have thought that would be slightly unnerving, really, to have people waving you off to work. But anyway, the community that displayed "Heroes Work Here" signs have turned their backs on us. Fuck me, how bored was I of seeing these stupid rainbow pictures in people's windows for months and months and months and months. People flying flags, people, spray painting and graffitiing NHS logos and slogans all over the fucking place. Honestly, it was just virtue signalling at its finest. Of course, in the early days, we were grateful. Whenever there's a public health situation, we as Brits become very grateful for that. In fact, we have a national health service, a service that, is there to help maintain and protect the health of the people of the country. However, it has become increasingly obvious that we are now the ones that are trying to protect the health service with these restrictions and lockdowns and everything else that's been going on over the last couple of years. We've been told that we need to protect the NHS, when realistically, the whole point of a national health service, the clue's in the fucking name, is that it's a service designed to protect the health of the nation, the health of the people that live in the UK. And time after time, we have been told that we have to curtail what we do, and in the case of many, that involves losing jobs, or at least having limited jobs, or our jobs becoming harder, losing our incomes, losing our freedoms in order to protect the very service that should be protecting us. So maybe, just maybe, people are a little bit tired of it. Maybe they don't have the same sympathy, the same support for the NHS and for the NHS staff that they had previously, because They are feeling let down by it all. The local rag is back pointing out our shortcomings. Well, pointing out the shortcomings of the National Health Service has kind of been a media staple for as long as I've been alive, to be honest. And as the service has got more bloated, and there's been more and more complaints that they can't cope. When we've seen time after time, empty wards, empty waiting rooms, nurses on TikTok doing their dances and stuff, but let's not go back there again, right? Pointing out the shortcomings of the NHS has been a national media staple for as long as I care to remember, and it's important that we call this out. And again, I'm not saying necessarily about the frontline staff. I'm not saying about the doctors, nurses, porters, all the rest of it. But if the management structure is massively inflated, they're hemorrhaging money at a fairer rate of knots because of the inefficiencies, then I think it is actually the job of the media to be calling them out on it, to be pulling them up on it, and to be highlighting to the taxpayer, the people who are funding this. Bear in mind, the NHS isn't a free service. Yes, it's free to access, but that's because some poor suckers, ourselves included, anyone who's watching this who is PAYE or a company director and pays their corporation tax, we're paying for it. So we are entitled to request a better service. We are still here, we are still fighting, we are still working harder than we ever have. I don't necessarily 100% believe that's the case, and if it is, that's again a management problem. It's because you're short-staffed. We're exhausted, just tell me about it. We're frustrated, almost certainly. We're emotionally and physically drained. Now, I want to go back to the point I made at the start of this video, and probably one that this won't be the last time I mention it, right? This is your job. This is what you have chosen to do. This is depending on the level you're at, on the front line of the NHS. You have chosen to be, or trained to be, get your relevant qualifications to be a doctor, a nurse, whatever. You've chosen this job. If you find it emotionally and physically draining, if you don't want to do it, or certainly if you don't want to do it without getting these accolades and recognition, then retrain. Go and do something else. There will be people who will want to fill your jobs for you. Okay. Now, I have admiration for people who do these sorts of jobs. Of course I do. But they are vocational jobs. If you need to be patted on the back every 5 minutes, have your name in lights and get free Costa coffee in order to feel validated in your employment, and you're not getting validation just through the sheer fact that you are helping people, then this doesn't sound like it's the job for you. It's a vocational job. It's like a teacher complaining, as sometimes they do, that, it's hard work and dealing with children is frustrating. Yes, it absolutely is, I'm sure. But if you don't want to be part of the education of children, if you don't get a sense of satisfaction, if you don't get validation and satisfaction from doing the very job that you've chosen to train to do, then retrain. Or don't retrain, go get an unskilled job, do something else. You can't... We are appreciative of our NHS, but you can't complain repeatedly that you're not being, acknowledged through these token gestures and free food and drink, because that's what you've chosen to do. I don't get any acknowledgement at all in my job. Occasionally, my boss will see something I've done and say, cheers for doing that. And that's about the level of validation, the level of appreciation that I get, but I don't expect any more because this is the job I've chosen to do. If I hated this job, if I found it frustrating, emotionally, physically draining, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, I'm doing overtime, as I think the next line says, skipping breaks, going in early, coming home late. If you hate it that much, don't do it. If you hate it that much, go and do something else. There was a reason that you chose to do this job, whether that's because it was vocational and it's something you want to do, whether you get satisfaction from helping people, in which case keep getting that satisfaction from your job. If it was because it's the only fucking job you could do, or there was a vacancy, you thought, give that a go, right? And now suddenly you're not, being hailed as heroes, you haven't flags flying in your honour, and now you're just feeling a little bit like, this is a bit mundane and a bit boring. Well, go and do something else then. We're missing time with our families. We're doing the best we can. And if I genuinely believe that about every single person posting this sort of shit, then fair play. But we all know, as I mentioned about teachers in another video when they were talking about finishing early for Christmas, we all know that in every job, in every industry, in every organisation, in every role, there are people who absolutely give their all to their role, to their job, to their position. They give absolutely everything. They give their heart and soul. They do work overtime. They put in the best they can to help the people that they support as much as is humanly possible. But there are people who do their absolute bare minimum to get by. I know it in the private sector, I know it in all the different types of job, and I've done a wide variety of jobs. There will always be people who work their asses off, who want to progress, or who just get satisfaction from working hard and achieving. But there'll also be people who do the absolute bare minimum to scrape by. So I can't believe that they are all doing the best they can. We aren't healthcare heroes anymore. We've become slaves to the pandemic, and it's really exhausting. You're not getting the validation. You're not getting the praise. You're not getting the accolades. You're not having people pat you on the back and go, well done. Should you need this? You're not children anymore. Oh, look, you've done a great job there. Well done. Well done for getting a B grade on your test at school. Oh, well done for getting 7 out of 10 on your spellings. Well done for swimming a width without armbands at the pool. You're adults. You're grown humans who have selected this job as your career. Right? You have to have a little pat on the back and a badge that says you're a hero in order to find it validating. Bullshit. And if it really is that exhausting, if it's really that hard, like I say, retrain. Or don't even retrain. Just go and get a job at McDonald's or stacking shelves or whatever. You know, I won't respect you any less for doing that job if you hate the job you're doing so much. You're not a hero just for having NHS at the top of your payslip. So please, if you read this and for some reason find yourself needing us, then cut the staff some slack. Try to be grateful and try to have some respect. Now, respect people, always respect people, right? Respect people regardless of the job they do. Like I say, service staff, healthcare staff, public transport staff, whatever, whoever they are, right? Have some respect for people. Certainly those who work hard and deserve your respect. Okay? But if I need the NHS, then I am entitled to go and use the NHS. And of course I'll be polite to people and I'll respect them and I'll be grateful for the service that I receive. But the reason I'm receiving that service is because I'm a UK taxpayer. So the individuals who are doing this job aren't doing it out of the kindness of their heart. The people who are out there volunteering, helping in soup kitchens, helping deliver groceries to older people, helping volunteer in the care sector, all of this sort of thing. Okay, these people, in my eyes, are something approaching heroes. Okay, these are the people that deserve the real accolades and the real respect, but they're not the ones banging on about how unappreciated they are on Facebook. Just be grateful that you still have a job. And if you don't like the job you've got, we've never been in more of an employees market. There are tons of vacancies in all sorts of sectors going on. So fuck off out the NHS, right? And go and get a job that you enjoy more, because you clearly don't enjoy your job. You're in it for the wrong reasons. You're not in it because you want to help people. If you're in it because you want to get your free Costa and you want to see everyone flying rainbow flags and giving you a pat on the back and apparently waving you off to work, then you're in the wrong job. Grow up. Stay safe and sane. All the best.